Hi, welcome to another edition of Relatable. I'm your host, Stephanie Michele. A couple of things I want to share with you guys at the beginning of the show today. If you've been watching for a while, you might remember our first guest of the season was Claire Weiland. She's the young lady that has cystic fibrosis. She's 21 years old. On Sunday, she went through a double lung transplant, and we're just waiting to hear news right now that they're going to wake her up today. And, hopefully we'll have an update later. But right now I'm just putting out like all energy, all prayers that her new lungs are like, yeah, I'm in Claire's body. Let's rock and roll. Let's do this. I just want this to be just a perfect match and for her to wake up, enjoy, and take that first breath, like with new lungs. How amazing. So please, please send out prayers, light a candle, put your rose quartz bling on, do what you do to just warrior some prayers today for Claire. We are totally thinking about her. Claire also reminds me of Mr. Rogers in an odd way. I watched his documentary over the weekend, and he called us to be a repairer of creation in the way that we find best. So repairing joy or light, hope, love, faith, pardon for ourselves and others. And Claire is that warrior too, like really just guiding us to like, hey, don't take things for granted and just love. And I think that that's a big part of the show. Like everybody that we bring on has such love for what they're doing, love for themselves. And I know everybody may not agree with me on this, but I believe when you lean into love that there is always God in that, whether you call it God or not, it's God forced to lean into love. And I believe Mr. Rogers would agree with that too. He, was an ordained minister, and not many people know that, but he did not feel called to speak in a religious tone. He wanted to work with children, and his message was pretty simple: love your neighbors, love yourself. And he felt like that was the most important thing that he can say, and I believe to this day that's an important reminder to anybody and anyone to just lean into love. So we're doing that today with the show. I know my guest leans into this as well, so I'm really glad that she's here today as we talk about this. So you're going to meet Saraya Erickson. She has a really diverse background in arts and media and health. And, the coolest thing about her, one of the coolest things, there's lots of stuff you're going to learn about her, but she spent her early life adventuring around the world because she has these famous historian parents that she would go on all these different adventures with. I think she's been to 39 countries, and her parents would interview politicians and presidents, and she'd be able to like be in the room with that and learn about people. And I think that's just great to be able to do as a child, and experience communication and different people and different cultures at an early point in life. She was also a professional ballet dancer. She launched a successful new age music label, and she's written scripts for Oscar-winning producers. She recently released a book chronicling her journey for the divine connection through sexual awakening called The God and the Evolution of the Orgasm, which I have read and we're going to be talking about. It was an awesome book. So, and she's currently developing a spiritual health and wellness brand.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm glad you're here today.
I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah. This is an important day. So we're just putting out like positive, awesome, healing energy, and I know that you've got that in you, and it's like awesome that you're here with us today.
Thank you.
So I usually ask anyone that sits in that chair, top of the interview, is like, is there anything that's pulling you that's just kind of a little distracting in your mind right now that you just want to put out before we talk about your book and you? And
no, I'm good. I'm clear today.
You're clear. You're here. She's not. I can kind of feel that.
Well, I think when you come on a show, you put everything out of your mind. No, but I feel very present.
Awesome. All right. Well, so as I mentioned, I read this in a night. I'm like, I'm just going to read a couple chapters. I read it in a night. I couldn't put it down.
Great.
For lots of reasons. I think there was lots of things that I could resonate with, and there was just some silliness, some lightheartedness that was nice to be with you on your adventure. And the first thing that I kind of thought of, I'm like, she's kind of a lucky person. Like, you've got a really good relationship with your parents.
I feel amazingly blessed. I mean, I'm so lucky because I had such a good start in life. And I definitely see the difference with other people that didn't have those parents. And so I'm lucky. And when I see other people like that, I definitely have more compassion for what it might take them to open up to these places. Because when it is important to have, if you can, that, that solid foundation. And my parents taught me to be adventurous, to be comfortable in the world with all the different cultures. And I think that that's one of the gifts, hopefully, that in conveying my experience, my spiritual journey, is that I can relate to so many different cultures and be comfortable with that, that hopefully I can, speak to many people.
Yeah.
But the adventures, and they taught me to be, my dad was, he's top in his field. He would take me to interviews for a president. He wouldn't even prep, he'd give me some history through our travel or whatever, but then driving there, he taught me like a real confidence in being who you are.
Yeah.
And just comfortable with being who you are. And you don't have to be perfect either.
Yeah.
He said, you don't know if you're ready for something to take the leap until you take the leap.
Yeah.
And we would go to these interviews and he'd say, ask whatever you want. I go, whatever I want. Any subject, you can do that. Now that's giving a teenager a lot of confidence and a lot of, I guess, power in a sense and so I actually would ask, because I've had this interest about my spiritual life since I'm a child. I went to an interview with the president of Bolivia with him, and I asked him about his spiritual life. And my father was so happy because he goes, because my father is more atheist, agnostic, not into this world, but always supportive of me. That's another thing.
Yeah.
No matter what, if I wanted to see a shaman, even if he cared or didn't, he would take me. If I wanted to see the Dalai Lama, he'd take me. So in the interview, he goes, I never occurred to me to ask him about that aspect of his life because you've added to it. So he allowed me to have my, to be myself.
Yeah.
And to support that whether he agreed or not. And that's an important gift.
I think so. I mean, we talk a lot about it on the show, and you're going to hear me sign off about relating with more curiosity. I think being able to encourage a child at any age to just ask those questions. But I think a lot of times, especially during the toddler ages, when we're doing the why, right. Parents are like, oh, go play in the street, but to be able to be curious, like that's how we learn, and to have somebody encourage you to do that. The other thing I like about your story and knowing that you were in the room in these important interviews is I can't even imagine what you learned about communication.
Well, I learned about communication. I also learned about, at a very young age, the behind the scenes that goes on in politics.
Yeah.
Like in the
the
earliest, people think that kids can't handle a lot of the reality sometimes, and they can. I think for me, my parents always gave it to me straight. When I flew from the Pacific Palisades, where I grew up, to Haiti, which, and I'm like 5, 6 years old, and I have vivid memories. You're like, oh my God, there's mules in the street leaving the airport, and there's this poverty, and you're like, you're not in Kansas anymore, and you see the scope of the world. It's so important not to hide the reality of the world, I believe.
I do too.
And so that was, what's the question again?
No, we just talked about communication.
Communication.
Like being able to just ask what you wanted to ask and interact in a way that, it had to be building like confidence too. It's like, I can ask anything, Dad, really?
Well, for instance, I know what I was talking about. I learned the complexities of politics. I remember being, again, it was right after this interview, you meet all the ministers, you meet the people. Well, this is South America, but this happens all around the world.
Yeah.
And then that night, being a good teenager, I was sitting in the lobby looking for adventure while my father went out to a dinner that I could not go to. And one of the ministers I met came in the lobby and said, oh, and he remembered me. And so he invited me to go out. And then there was the Secretary of State. We went to this club. Secretary of State's there with a tie around his head. Oh, with his mistress.
Yeah.
And he goes, do you remember, Suraya from this afternoon with her? Oh, yes. He goes, oh, me, Tarzan, Eugene.
Oh, my goodness.
That's the Secretary of State.
Yeah.
So, but you see these things, and it just adds to the truth and the color of life. And I also learned very young and through my adventures that people aren't black and white.
Yeah.
People have amazing good sides, and then they have these sides that are,
they're not black and white. They're not one dimensional.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of people, even people that can be assholes, have a good side.
Yeah.
So you have to look at always the good qualities and the bad qualities. But that was an adventurous evening, and got invited to go to the Caribbean until I got escorted home, and my father came home to the hotel at the same time. And I go, there's my dad. The guy goes, oh, I gotta go. He did not want to say hello to my father.
I bet.
So,
well, so you mentioned earlier your dad doesn't really lean into spiritual things,
no.
but you have. So that didn't come from them. Like, where did it come from? It's just the
I think some things we have innately, and it might not be under the he's spiritual because he believes this and believes that, but he is a humanitarian and a great human being.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to subscribe, obviously, to any religion to be a good person. And I think, if anything, that added again to the scope of understanding and being okay with the world at large. For instance, my grandmother was Catholic. She did not like priests, though. She thought priests were hypocrites.
Creepy, hypocritical.
Yeah, hypocritical. She's like, she would never confess. She goes, they're dirtier than I am. I have nothing to say to them. So I was just raised with people who.
Do you wonder why she felt that? Like, what experience it is that
the priests in Guatemala, they all have kids. It's not that that's bad.
Yeah.
It's that within the context of how they've made these vows, they're just not following them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, and so, but she was Catholic. My mom is agnostic. My dad is more leaning towards atheism. And then I'm exploring a lot of, different religions, mainly Buddhist, Hindu, Taoism. And we all lived together. I grew up with my grandparents. And so we grew up, in the same place. I remember one time a Seventh-day Adventist came to the house. Oh, and the maid was, what was she? A Pentecostal or something. And someone knocked on the door, one of these Jehovah's Witnesses, and, oh, we'd like to come and, preach. And I go, well, let me see what everyone wants today. So I go, hey, grandmother, hey, abuelita, because I'm part Hispanic. And I said, this guy wants to come and talk about Jehovah's. I said, are you in the mood? She goes, sure. So I go, okay, you can come in. She goes, my grandmother's Catholic. She's Pentecostal. And I kind of lean towards Buddhism, Hinduism, and these people left. But see, we were open. We were open for the dialogue. Sure, why not? Come in and speak. But
they didn't even try?
They left. I guess that's the way to get rid of if you don't want to speak to them. I don't know, that freaked them out.
It's so sad, too, because that's what we need the most.
Yeah, that's what we need the most.
Yeah.
That's the point. But being growing up in that kind of multicultural, everybody just they were their own people. We could all convive and love each other. And sure, we had our arguments. My grandfather was Republican and could not abide that Nixon was impeached, So, but all good people.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that added a lot to my being able to explore not just different cultures spiritually, but also have that inner journey.
Yeah.
Because you need to have, when you really go into having the inner journey in these experiences, you do have to have a sense of real exploration and courage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It really is an inner journey. It's a travel inside, and you will see different states of mind that are being in some of these states of mind are so different that it is like being in another country in your being.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and it's a way to have the same experience in a different way. Like even traveling in these different countries, like depending on what spiritual practices or discoveries you're leading into, like that same experience can be completely different. And can have new insight that you're taking with you on to the next one.
Yeah, exactly. And also see the commonality.
Yeah.
That was one thing through my travels. I learned that, and also my exploration of spirituality in the different cultures, because I've been to Peru and I've been a lot into that culture, and Brazil spiritually. And there is a common thread, and the common thread is, which was part of the title of the show, energy.
Yes. Yes.
Anyone who's gone the mystical side of any true tradition, which I mean, in a true tradition to me is is a tradition that enables you to have direct experience of your own deeper being and what we call God. But it's always about energy. It's about cultivating and learning how to cultivate your energy, to build it and to use it for healing or whatever you want. So it's learning about the world of energy.
Yeah. Well, let's talk more about that. So what have been some of your favorite explorations, holistic wise or spiritual, that have let you tap into different energies or to feel things at a different frequency?
Well, one thing that you do want to have a practice, and breath, as so many traditions have said, breath is the key to calming your nervous system. And here's where, spirituality crosses into science. It's, if you can relax your nervous system, but truly deeply, then that's when you can explore and expand into using more of your brain, more of your being, to sense and feel the world, and to also explore, abilities, and some people call them supernatural, but they're, at one point when you start experiencing them, they're just a part of your being or a muscle you haven't been using. But the key to the nervous system is breath and releasing the muscle tension. I mean, it literally is, it could body work in yoga, and that's why yoga is a part of the Hindu tradition, because you need to open up the nervous system and relax the body. Open the mind, open the heart.
What comes up for me when you're sharing this is like, everybody knows when I'm not breathing because I'm here. This is like all the stress is right here. If I'm sitting at the computer and working, and it's like here, and if you think about it like that, you're physically holding like a block. It's like, of course, like I need to breathe. I'm like actually not letting anything flow through me. It's like I'm actually blocked up pretty severe, and I'll feel it. I mean, I'll physically feel this. So of course, it's so taken for granted. Like breath, and like breathe and practicing breathing, and
There's something else though. A huge leaps in my path have come from being around people whose energy, they can somehow, it is like a tuning fork experience. Being around these people, that your energy starts to naturally attune with them, and they open you up to a different state. It is an energy transference thing.
Can you get an example of that? Like the first time you experienced something?
Yeah, for sure. My first teacher, John Buxbazen, who is now Daishan of the Zen Buddhist Center. He opened me up to my spirituality because I wasn't raised. He taught me meditation. I went to him for hypnotherapy for ballet because I was training to be a professional ballet dancer, and I have so many questions. What is the subconscious? And I was actually scared. You're going to hypnotize me?
I've done it. I've been hypnotized.
But I was 13 and I didn't know about these things. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to teach you to meditate. You have so many questions, but I'm going to teach you to meditate so you can get your answers for yourself. And that's one of the best. If you're ever with a teacher, if they don't tell you that, you need to be able to get your answers for yourself. They have to empower you. If they try to say, oh, I've got the answers and I'm going to give you all the answers and you can only come to me. No.
I agree with you. We talked about this when we first connected on the phone. Like, how do I say this? If you call yourself a guru, that's totally fine. Okay. But the idea that any one person has more than somebody else, or we don't have the ability to like work through these things, or we shouldn't be encouraged to, like, I think any good teacher should be encouraging a student to be a good student and learn.
They're teaching you to be your own guru. That's what they call it, the inner guru. And it's about being open to and growing your own intuition, so you listen to yourself. And then we become empowered beings and not dependent on this guru guy that it often goes crazy with power.
There's enough Netflix specials
exactly.
to show.
I was going to say, and they're really good too. You should watch
I
them.
love Wild Country. I recommend everybody should.
And there's another one called Holy Hell.
Holy Hell?
I'm telling you, everyone,
Can't wait.
So, but he was that kind of energy catalyst. And the first time I meditated with him, I had a altered state experience. And the reason I bring this up, and it is good to try to find these types of teachers, is that it really inspires you. It lights a fire under your ass because you have the experience. People meditate for years and years and years, and you have to have so much discipline to do that, and sometimes they don't experience something. Now, not everyone can find these people. I think John now is retired, so you can't go to him now that I've said his name. But I've had other people.
Yeah.
I've had several teachers that have had that energy transference thing, and it's instant.
Yeah.
You're with them. It's in the Hindu tradition, they call it Shakti. It's a transference of energy, and suddenly they transfer a state of mind to you. And so that is a speedy way to grow. That's the fast track.
I look, I kind of, I'm thinking about my Christian friends and other religion friends, and that sometimes tend to be fearful of trying these things. But if there's anything that seems to be in every religion, is that how we are all connected. That you should love your neighbor, and there is this flow. Like, I think God flows through everybody. My favorite verse in the Bible is when 2 or more gather in my name. I love that. I love that idea of knowing there's 3 people in this room right now, and there's a God force in this room too, and I feel it. I sometimes will get those little tinglies when we're in here. But just this idea of a lot of having this experience where you're like, we didn't even say anything, and I just feel you. Like, I really know you, and like I know something about you. My heart is like swelling for you. I don't see how that could be bad for anybody. I don't see how anyone, even if you have a certain practice, how just be willing to like meditate and allow yourself to kind of float somewhere else and see what that connected looks like.
And to demystify this and bring this into a grounded place where this might be new, like you said, your Midwestern friends.
My Christian friends.
Christian friends. I was Christian.
She knows. I shared it earlier that I'm from Michigan, and so she's like,
the thing with basically science, we'll go to science because that makes people feel in their safe zone.
Some people not.
That's true. That's true.
It's a whole other ballgame right now.
That's true. Science. It's scientific that we are energy. Yeah. We are a bunch of energy channels. So it only goes. That's exactly what the spiritual mystics have said. So it's actually concurrent. It's not separate. It's the same. It's just spoken about in a slightly different terms and ways. But if we are energy, and they say, when you die, there's this energy cannot be destroyed. It's just transformed.
Again, I mean, it's in my head, so I'm going to bring it up. When you take communion, if you're in a Christian faith, Catholic, everybody takes communion. In the Catholic religion, when they take the blood of Christ, the body of Christ, like they actually believe that that's what's going in them. But it's actually, they don't say it's energy, but it's like it's the energy of it. It's like we're doing this.
You know what it's called? It's called communion.
Yeah,
and communion.
But communion is energy. It's like you're not doing anything more than taking in energy.
Communion, all, like I said, these traditions that deal with opening yourself up energetically. Communion is the experience you're hoping to get. It's communion with the life force energy, and it's communion with your own spirit and heart. But the actuality, that's like a ritual. Yeah. But to actually have that communion is bliss. Yeah. It is absolute bliss. And it gives you, it expands you, it gives you communion with the larger existence. Humanity, the cosmos. Yeah. You have those experiences, and then you feel it. For me, it gave me the experience of feeling so at home in this universe. Even as the mystery, I don't know everything. Yeah. It gives you that kind of love of communion gives you a security inside, even if you'll never have all the answers to the mystery. Yeah. And it makes the mystery just wondrous and beautiful, and I'm going to keep exploring. And you don't even have to know everything because it's impossible. Yeah. But you have that thing that we are wired to want to feel this communion, which is bliss, because that's who we are, and we're expanding into our larger self.
Yeah, I 100% agree. What's popping in my mind is relationship without ritual. It's like we strive for connection with each other, and we don't want to have this this ritual just to have it. We want to feel relationship without ritual at all times, like that I feel a part of this world sitting here with you or walking outside, or I feel a little God energy because a little thing just popped in my mind. It's like, oh, that was special, but it's all times with you at all times.
One thing I've always prayed for is to be able to see the God in other people.
Sometimes.
Because that's so freaking hard.
Sometimes it is.
But these experiences, when you see it in yourself, you just it just clicks. You're not even doing your meditation practice, and you're walking down the street. All of a sudden, you have this connection, you have this love for someone, and you see them as sacred. And that's what this is, the sacred experience, the communion is a sacred experience. And one thing that's funny on my path, because I was not raised with religion, is when I would go into these peak experiences where I was open, I started to have visions of religious iconography and symbology that I was not raised with. And suddenly I would have like a vision of this. When I talk about a vision, I'm not going crazy.
And just to be clear, have you done any drugs to enhance this?
I don't drink.
Okay.
I got sauced a couple of times as a teenager to try it, didn't care for it again. Did that with pot, didn't care for it again. For about a year I did smoke pot, but
that's another story.
I was a teenager. But I have tried some hallucinogens in the Amazon, but it's not my path. Actually, this is a really good point, is that I had more altered state visionary experiences through meditation than I did through something called ayahuasca. A lot of people now, it is, are very aware of this culture from the Amazon that's come here in, traveling shamans, overnight shamans.
There's
and
we're in California. They're here.
It's a tea that helps you open up to the spiritual realm and the subconscious and stuff like that. And I tried that, and I don't have experience. I'm sitting there. I don't hallucinate on those things. But in my normal practice, I've had visions. And by visions, what a vision is to me is all of a sudden you're able, like in a dream, you're expanded your awareness where you can access the greater part of you. You can call it your brain, your subconscious. And all of a sudden your subconscious can have a dialogue with you. And it comes through images and visions, and it's like having a waking dream. So, but I started to have some of these experiences. Like I had that experience with the Sacred Heart. And I didn't know what that was. I saw floating. I was having one of my spiritual bliss epiphanies in the bathtub. The bathtub is really great for those. And just this epiphany and this bliss, and all of a sudden, in that experience, I was very sad about something I learned about. I saw a documentary about Desmond Tutu, and they were having some trials, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa. And when I saw that, it made me so sad, because they literally had the perpetrators of the crimes were confessing to the families that they did these horrific things. And that, that's heavy. It's going to be heavy even if you are enlightened. You're always going to cry about those things. And I was like, and it gives you that shame for being a human being. Oh my God, I'm part of this group. And they're burning people alive and doing these horrible things. And I was sad. It brought me really down. And I was like, and then suddenly in the tub, it released this epiphany. And that's when your channels are more open through these practices. It releases these emotional blocks, but it brings wisdom. It brings epiphanies with it. And so opening up to my subconscious, my higher self, the whole deal, the epiphany sometimes comes through a symbolic language. And so I had this vision of a heart with daggers in it, and that little, like that little light around it. And it's the Sacred Heart. That's a Christian symbol. And I was not raised with that. And the symbology was that when your heart becomes more spiritual, it encompasses the world. You care more. Some people in some traditions are like, oh, you're in such bliss, especially some of the Hindu traditions. They give this impression you're enlightened and you're above all these human emotions. And in fact, no, your heart becomes bigger and you love more. So you're also sometimes going to feel the pain more. And that's the symbology of the daggers. But you do have this beautiful big heart, and that experience for me was I could feel the pain of the world and I could feel the bliss of the universal sacred heart at the same time.
Yeah.
And you do not want to close yourself.
No.
The moment you close yourself because it's too painful, you're going to cut off that connection to, you know, your larger self and the spiritual, your spiritual heart.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I believe everybody, whether they know that they've had these experiences, has had them, because you know, it could be just a dream trying to like, hey, get through to you. Hey, I'm trying to talk to you, and all we're really talking about, or all really you're talking about, is there's things that you can do to really go to that place. And for me, it's you know, I don't claim to know anything, everything. Certainly not everything. And I have very weak moments, or not weak, but tired. Just tired of like being in this world right now of tough stuff, you know, and like seeing trauma after trauma in the news. I'm like, and I don't feel like I'm doing enough. I don't feel, you know. And so when that just ridiculous amounts of chatter in my own head that I'm producing, nobody else is producing that, I have to quiet that. Yeah. So that does mean stopping and sitting. I have like earphones that I put on to just cancel out everything and go into meditation. And I might smoke a little marijuana. I still do that. You know, it's still my go-to thing, which is funny because I didn't like it for like a long time. And now it's like, okay, you're too much in your head.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, and I yes, I'm more available.
No, I totally am for any of these things that they can be tools. Even hallucinogens like this ayahuasca, it is a great, amazing tool. Yeah, I didn't necessarily need it on my path because I was already open. That's how I saw it. Some people people's defenses are so high they need something.
And that's where I am right now. In a couple of years, will be something else. And I've gone through different. I'm very open to holistic things. You know, I don't like going to regular doctors. I don't take medication of any kind. I want to stay off that little pillbox routine as long as I possibly can. I mean, it's like I just see that as not something that I want to do. And so, but I've always explored different kind of holistic things, and I've outgrown different things. You know, like that worked at a time, and now I'm trying. So I don't know if this is going to work at all times, but it is my thing right now. It's like if I can't quiet my mind enough with just normal meditation and like putting some noise cancellation earphones on, then I might need a little help.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's what that's for, and it's so important. There's a story when I was in the jungle doing the ayahuasca and researching it. There was a man there, and I was talking to people. What has this done for you? There was one guy who was, he said, you know, when growing up, he played the piano because his mother forced him or whatever, and he played it well. But he says, I could never understand growing up that why people sit around and listen to music, what the joy is. He was so cut off from a certain, you know, channel in his being, and he took ayahuasca. And after ayahuasca, that cracked. He said, now I love listening to music. He could feel it. Yeah. There's something that cut off his feeling to music, or something about his upper, who knows. But those kinds of leaps, these I call them medicines. They're sacred medicines, and they're meant to be used that way. And they can be anything in, you know, moderation and in the proper context. Of you. Some people do go nuts with anyone.
Anything you go
they can go, But in my experience, one of the reasons I was motivated to write this book was that part of the spiritual teachings that were kind of filtered through some of the you know, the teachers' teachings were that you're supposed to
you're going to take
go beyond that you're supposed to go beyond the physical and the senses, that the carnal, you know, sex, you're supposed to rise above the senses. And when I had this big awakening, which is a Kundalini awakening, and Kundalini is not cunnilingus.
Actually, that's my next question. Let's talk about it, because Kundalini is really important, a part of this book and your practice as well. So what is it, and then what is the awakening for you?
Kundalini is a life force energy at the base of the spine. There's a lot of traditions, especially Asia, Hindu, Buddhism, Taoism, they believe there's a life force energy at the base of the spine. They call it the God force. And when it's all meditation, all practices are meant to awaken this force. And then it opens up your energy channels, and some people call them chakras. And when these channels are open, then you're able to flower into, you know, the full experience of being a human being and a spiritual human being. So, and into your energetic self, and you can start to feel energy.
And you could be taught to breathe to like really bring that out.
Yeah,
right? Kundalini is breath work.
Well, this is Kundalini. Kundalini is the life force energy, and then there's practices that open the Kundalini. All, like I said, all meditation, all yoga is meant to facilitate that opening and to keep that opening growing. However, there's a specific, they call it Kundalini yoga, which is a specific breath work. I personally never did that breath work.
You don't like that?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
It's very heavy duty. Kundalini breath work is like, whoa.
You want to demonstrate that again?
No, I don't. I think I heard something down there.
No, the Kundalini, the interesting thing is it happened to me I mean, I've been obviously meditating and doing things for years, but it happened by accident. Mm-hmm. And when it happened, this is the interesting part. It's like the chicken or the egg. When it happens, your breath changes.
Yeah.
Exactly like they have you do in the practices.
Yeah.
The practices they're trying to push your body into that experience. But when the Kundalini can open naturally, and when it does, that's the first thing that changes. You're like, you're exactly,
yeah.
The breath just starts to change. When my Kundalini, when I'm going into a more of an altered state, it will start to do that. And but when I had this awakening, one thing that I was surprised was that it didn't I didn't have to rise above the senses. That wasn't the experience. Mm-hmm. The experience was, it awakened my senses. Mm-hmm. It made me more sensitive. And that's what gives us, I learned that it's so important to protect your sensitivity and your vulnerability, because that's what allows you to suck the marrow and the ultimate beauty out of all aspects of being a human being. So actually,
we're getting to the good stuff right now. I know what the book says.
It flowed into my sexual self.
Yeah.
Because this connection to the God bliss all of a sudden raised the pleasure bar I could feel in my body. Mm-hmm. The sensitivity. So it was colors, it was taste. Now, who doesn't want that?
Yeah.
That's the drug. That's what people get from the drug experience.
And sometimes. This was happening on a table when you were doing some body work,
yeah,
right?
I went to a body worker, and he hardly touched me. He went into my armpits, which no body worker had done. That's a huge doorway for me.
Who knew?
I'm so easy.
Hello.
So he opened there, and my energy currents just started to do all kinds of crazy things. And I opened into this amazing heat. I had bliss in every single cell of my body.
Was he used to giving this experience to people? So did he, how did he react to your...
He's used to opening people to a deeper place. So it's wherever you are, someone who maybe isn't as open. And that's what he talks about, that there's certain things that block people from this experience.
Yeah, you talked about, there's 4 things. Yeah. I wrote them down. So there's emotional trauma and stresses.
Yeah.
There's physical trauma from injury and surgeries. There's tightness and lack of flexibility. Yeah. And toxicity due to diet.
Yeah.
And
all this has to do with just blocking our energy channels. And he would help people figure out where they're blocked. Now, I had done enough work naturally, and I didn't even know he did this, which is the best part. There's no preconceived notion. Like, people go, oh, you convinced yourself. No, I thought I was going to a normal body worker.
I thought you were getting a massage?
Yeah, that I was going to get a massage.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, but I've been with enough healers. I was like, wow, this guy has something.
Yeah.
That's what I talked about, these energy catalysts.
Is his name the real name in your book?
No, nobody's name is, for their anonymity and privacy.
Yeah. I know they're not, because they're funny names. She's got a gift for naming people. Double.
Well, that was actually my boyfriend at the time. It was his real nickname.
Yeah.
Double cheese.
Yeah.
So, but this experience, what opened me up, when he first worked on me, I felt my energy currents open, but then I booked him again, and he's so booked, this guy. He's like 2-3 months booked in advance, sometimes 4.
Yeah.
So people are getting, there's something there.
Yeah.
When you're that booked in advance. And second time, between that time and the second time, I had my energy currents start to open, and then my sexual energy was building like crazy.
Yeah.
I was having, and now I know the reason is, and I've read this in some scriptures about Kundalini and spiritual awakening, that sometimes the sexual energy is it's such a strong force that it helps open up the experience and open your channels. So the buildup of it. And
you talked about it specifically, like you're like, okay, this is through my sexual energy. This is my next phase of openness, really. Like, why was that so?
Well, because at first I started to have, when I had the first opening, it was with a sexual buildup. And the second time I went to him, then he just didn't do anything. He touched my lower belly. It shot up my spine. And I was on the table in absolute sheer bliss, every single cell of my body. And my mind was going, what the hell is this? But I realized that there's a greater wisdom. And it put me into that, universal, intuitive, what I call life force, consciousness wisdom. It's beyond the intellect.
And is it almost like connection too? It's like, okay, I've done this. I've done so much journeying myself, and my own awareness and my own spiritual path, and so this next level is more this connective level, and through
it's a new connection to yourself, and a new connection to everything, and that's what happened. That I started to go into these epiphanies, and in one of these epiphanies, my higher self, my God self, however you want to call it, life force, I was getting these messages of guidance, and in one of these bliss experiences, it said, you need to experience this state of bliss in sexual union with another, and it'll be very healing, and it'll be the next step for you in your journey. Now, looking at it in retrospect, I realized why. It's that this consciousness wants us to evolve, and to evolve, we need to see we need to have a relationship to every aspect of our life. We need to be in a sacred relationship, and that includes sexuality. We don't want to cut sexuality out like certain religions and traditions have. We want to incorporate that and embrace it, and so sexually, slowly, I started to have different experiences because these channels were open, and my energy, this pleasure bar was higher. I started to have different kinds of orgasm. I started to have orgasm where I'd have a normal, vaginal orgasm, and then it would rise up suddenly, but it would be like a few minutes later. It's like it's taking the elevator up, and I'd go to my heart, and I'd have a heart orgasm. Then further down the line, I would, in another experience, another time, it would go up to my heart, and then it would go up to my head. And all of a sudden I was in cosmic union, and then you're in meditation. So that energy, that life force energy, and the sexual is the strongest, life force energy. It's so connected. It's actually, I really felt that sexuality is a very underused force for spiritual awakening. And it's not.
It's weird because, like, look, almost everything we experience in terms of pain comes from stress, right? And the best stress reliever, is sex. So it's like,
sex, right.
So why wouldn't we experience it more? Like, well, if it can make me not have stress, or help, like, why wouldn't it be the next level?
And then if it can make me feel that universal cosmic spiritual
and loved and
communion, then you're in communion. Then you're in communion more with another human being, and you're able to expand your experience of beyond yourself as to what is sacred, and I can encompass this person I'm with. I mean, it was the most amazing experience when I literally touched a boyfriend, and I felt like just touching him, his skin. It was so sacred. I would have just started to cry. But when you become open up to that kind of sensitivity and to the world of energy, and your pleasure goes up, that's when you start to feel, that's when I started to see the potential for us evolving. And if more people can have this experience, I'm already getting the heart swell, and we're not there yet.
All right.
But that's the thing. It is that 100th monkey. There's that, when more people experience that, on a planetary, we're going to make different choices. We're going to make, we're going to lead with our heart in terms of our choices. Because we have the space in our being to do that. We're not me. We're expanded. We're like, I feel this. I feel the ultimate force of the universe that's created unlimited galaxies in me. And I feel that so tangibly. And now I'm starting to feel it in my lover. Now I see nature. A lot of people connect to nature naturally. But it expands your connection to that, and you're able to make not small greedy choices. You're able to make more expanded loving choices, and that is how I felt this could be the Garden of Eden. There's nowhere to go. This could be heaven on earth if we open up to these, deeper spiritual connections.
Yeah. So you talk about, or what you're really journaling and sharing in the book is like, so now you had this experience and you're like, well, I obviously need to do this with somebody.
Oh,
so you're going to pursue this. I'm going to find a tantric lover, like a lover that can.
Okay, I'm going to find a tantric lover.
And explain, like, let's talk about tantric. Like, what do you really mean by that? I think, like, we've already actually talked about it without actually using that word. But
Tantra, in our culture, a lot of people just relate to it as being a sexual practice, but it's not. Tantric, there can be tantric mantra practices. There's all kinds of different tantric practices. It's just another practice. It's very similar to the word yoga. It's a practice that helps you experience the union of God in your life, in yourself, in your heart.
And get on this. It's like everything you talked about, this if we call it higher level, loving energy, more expansive. It's like having that experience with somebody else and staying on that level and being able to go to that level with them.
But the thing of Tantra, it's definitely not about denying the physical world. It's about incorporating spirituality in the physical world and connecting to it, not being cut off from the physical in the spiritual experience. So
you're not going to experience tantric anything with someone that doesn't have a spiritual background. Yes or no?
Yes, you can.
You can't. So you can't. So
you can.
You can, or you can't.
Yes, you can.
Because
there's the communal that you can. If someone is more open to it, it's going to take you even higher. But if you're already open, you're going to have those experiences on your own, regardless. I was going to say, regardless where the dumb shit next to you is. Do you know what I'm saying? No, I'm just.
Let's just be real.
No, but it's true because we are. Because that's the journey. It's being an individual.
It helps if he's not a dumb shit, though. Let's just be clear. Let's just
you
be clear.
You can be sitting right next to someone and you can be going into that experience yourself. Now, but you're talking sexually. It's like we said, it's not all black and white. So someone doesn't have to be know about this or really be open. They could be natural. Or for sometimes I'm just so in that state myself, you're gonna bulldoze through whatever else is in this scenario.
I think what also is in play in your journey, so you actually, you're like, I'm gonna get a tantric lover, I'm gonna ask for help. So you had a gentleman that was kind of
a friend
fixing you up, and so these men knew when they were meeting you that you were on that journey. So it creates an excitement. Like they're already open. Because it kind of sounds sexual,
these people were so happy for this adventure. I had a friend who I called my guru agent who introduced me to many teachers. Yeah. So I knew he knew a lot of spiritual people. I'm like, okay, this is the mission.
Yeah.
I'm looking for my tantric lover. And I could just hear him wringing his hands on the other side. Ha. So he called some friends and he set up some blind dates on the purpose to find a tantric lover. The elephant in the room when you go with this purpose is hilarious.
Yeah.
Because it's like, how do we bring this up?
Yeah, but what is so great about it, and like we can't underestimate this, is it was intentional. There's so much communication and relation out there right now that's like the social norm that like we don't talk about anything. Let's not be intentional. Let's not talk about what we really want in a relationship. Let's just wait. And what is it? It's called it's the happenstance of the relationship, right? And the magic is the intention. Yeah. It's like, look, this is what I'm looking for, and someone's like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like, okay, I don't know what that is, but I like that you put the intention.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think
men really like that intention.
Right, yeah. It's like nobody has this figured out. We talk about this all the time on here. Nobody has sex figured out. Nobody has a relationship figured out. Like we're all trying to figure it out, right? Yeah. So if someone comes in with like, hey, let's try this. We should be open for that, first of all. And I think it lets a little of the stress or a little like the tension out of the room.
But the good tension was there.
Yeah.
I like that good
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the beginning.
Yeah.
Like,
I can work with that. I can work with that.
So he set me up with different people, and so that was a fun journey and really fun adventure. And you can read the details in the book. And then I ended up I did find my first lover that I launched into a relationship with.
Yeah. Are
And
you still in a relationship?
I'm still in a relationship. Should we divulge that?
She's like, there is another book coming up, so you don't have to answer the question.
No, there's this is the first in a series of the journey.
Okay, good enough. Good enough.
But it turns out to be pretty wacky and in a fun way.
It was already getting pretty wacky, so I can't even imagine what else is going to happen.
Let me put it this way. This book is called God and the Evolution of Orgasm.
Yeah.
The next one is called The Chandler, the Healer, the Necrophiliac Cultist, and Me. So,
and a butcher and a baker and a candlestick maker.
I wish they were there. I love to eat. So.
Yeah. And the candle.
Give me the baker.
Oh, hilarious. So let me ask you this. So now that you are having these experiences, whether we say higher level or more intense or more meaningful, they are elevated. They're elevated experiences. Do you feel, and this is totally me asking for me, like, do you feel it's harder to appreciate simpler experiences now?
Not at all.
Like, are you snobby about it? Like I can have this.
But simpler, are you talking sexual? Or are you talking general
life? A little bit of both. Like, I feel like sometimes. Let's just talk about relating.
Sure.
For me, like, I'm a snob. I think in terms of like the quality of relating. Like, I don't really want to have text exchanges over what I had for lunch, or like, what's up? Like, I don't want to answer a text, what's up? And if you send me that, that's why. It's like, I'm not into it,
Right.
Like,
right.
ask me a why question. Ask
right.
me why do you do what you do? Like, I want to talk about that all day. And so
right.
So I sometimes feel like
the what's up is funny, isn't it?
Right.
That's
It is
really
kind of
funny.
yeah, it's funny. And what's up? Like, even like, really?
Right.
Those peas, what are those supposed to do for me? Like, nothing. You wasted a pea. But there's something that this is, again, I'm totally projecting my own stuff, like, where I care about this,
right.
and I now that I know how I can experience like a more deepened interaction.
Right.
I don't really have time for that other stuff that I don't feel is like worthy of my time.
Yeah.
So it makes me a little snobby.
Well, I wouldn't. It depends. I wouldn't call that a snob. I think you're just being more discerning with your time and the quality of relations you have and the exchanges you have. And I think that happens. I think that's totally natural as you evolve, and also as we get older, we realize, time. We want those quality experiences. We don't have time for. But
it goes back to everything's energy, right? Like, I feel toxic.
I humor people a little more with their peas.
Yeah, their peas. I know you do.
I do.
She has like these interactions with people.
Because I realize that for me, I'm going to tell you that it is not easy to find someone who has had these experiences. Men in general are not as much into the spiritual journey, although they're into the sexual journey. So maybe that's why I wrote the book. I mean, or this energy wants to bring it through sexuality, because it is a way to draw people to their spirituality. But no, I have had experiences where people are definitely not on the same openness energetically, or even I didn't want to say kinesthetically. That sounds kind of weird, but I'm going to say maybe even sensually, or just. But I've learned that if people are really wanting to learn, and you have that chemistry. I mean, chemistry is the basis for all this. That some people can grow. Not everybody. They have to really not have ego. If they don't have the ego and they just want to grow and they see it like, okay, I'm ready for my lesson. I had a boyfriend that I don't know what.
Why that's so funny? I don't know what I'm thinking about right now.
But I am talking sexually. I'm talking.
Yeah.
I had a boyfriend who his hands were amazing. His touch was amazing. He could not kiss. I didn't understand how someone could go through life that long and not know how to kiss. But I thought, you know what? We had that conversation, And it's hard. You don't want to hurt people's feelings. But he's like, I'm open. And I taught him to be a much better kisser, and he was able to rise to the occasion. But stuff like that. And this is small, and I know we're talking about the spiritual, but I did get to a lot of these very open stages with him because he was open.
Yeah.
So they don't have to be on your same level, and you can't always expect that. I mean, yeah. So.
Open, and it just goes back to what we talk about on the show, curiosity. It's like just
curiosity,
be open, like I don't know, but
talk
I'll
about
try.
Communication, because I know that's a big thing in relating, is that people they're defensive. So many people get defensive about these things. They feel criticized instead because they relate it to something, and instead they feel criticized, and then it's really hard to
we're carrying
work through those things.
We carry a lot of shame and trauma around sexuality. I mean, everybody has a little bit of it somehow, that they haven't, that they may have worked on, or but they that they haven't done. Everybody has that. Men and women have that. Everybody has that.
Yeah.
So how do you get to talk about that? Like, how do you move past that? It's openness, and it's hey, I don't have it all figured out, and maybe I do have this little thing that it's a little hard for me. It creates a little pain, but I'll talk about it.
Well, he was ready for his lessons.
I like it. I like it. I like it. So, I mean, I can't even believe, like, we're almost done. Like, there's so much more to talk about. So you're still on this journey.
Yes.
And I know you're developing a wellness plan or wellness brand.
I can't really talk
about that yet.
But coming very soon.
Okay. What else? Like, so if we're just kind of putting this out there to like, hey, find your own path, like maybe what's some of the go-to things that you started exploring, like holistically, or like the body work? Like, what are some of your best recommendations?
I would say,
just
and I know you're going
openness.
to agree with me.
Okay, maybe.
No, I know
I'm not always agreeable. I am wearing leather pants. I mean, come on. I'm not always agreeable.
Is that it does, talking about the rule of 4, which you spoke about, I would say the basics is you do have to see where you think is your most blocked. So if you haven't paid attention to your health, and the great thing about this path is that when you pay attention to any of these things, it's going to improve your whole life. It's not just, it all comes with it. So you're going to have more, if you take care of your health first. Yeah. You have to make sure that you're not eating all those chemicals and pesticides. And you do want to eat organic. It's good for our planet. It's good for our body. It's actually, if you eat organic, it's a political statement. Yeah. And I will say this in regards to my health and wellness brand, is that as someone on the path of spirituality, one of the biggest ways we can change the world, going into the practical element, is as a consumer, be a responsible consumer.
Yeah.
Choose products, buy products, and that you put in your house, your environment, that are healthy.
Yeah.
And that is going to force the big corporations to not use certain chemicals, to do things properly, because that's what the consumer is demanding. It really is supply demand. We have the power as consumers to change that paradigm.
Yeah.
So,
and what's coming up for me and you sharing all that is just pay attention. Like we're pay attention, slow down, and here's why. Okay, so we're so quick to like, okay, I don't have the answer. Let's go to someone that has the answer, and that's kind of how our relationship with Western medicine. It's like, oh, I feel something, I'm gonna go and get a pill or get a diagnosis. Where there's actually another opportunity. So like I mentioned earlier, I carry all my stress right here, and it's this side more than the other side, and you'll see me like,
I should have massaged you through the internet.
Yeah, you should.
You could have sat here.
But now, instead of like, okay, I could, like, so one path could be, oh, I've got this pain, let's go to the doctor, give me a pain medication, right? Or the other path could be, okay, when is this pain showing up? What was I doing? Why is it making me feel this way? Why is that something? And keep asking these questions. You're like, ooh, core. Okay, now I'm at the core of something. Yeah. And I can do something about that. Yeah. And I still may decide to go to the doctor, but at least now I'm an advocate for my own health. And like I am experiencing stress, like but it's that slow down, pay attention to your own stuff. You can do the same thing with the food and the things that you're consuming. Is the new shampoo that I bought making my hair fall out and brittle? Like, is the food that I love the taste of making my belly ache an hour later? Like, what's in it? Yeah, what's happening?
and it also blocks you energetically.
Yeah.
So the other thing is pick up the breath work. It doesn't have to be affiliated with any kind of belief system, any kind of religion. Breath is breath, and it relaxes you. Anyone, scientifically, they'll tell you it has nothing, you know, you don't have to believe anything. There's different breath practices. I would, having a daily practice, it's basically, it'll take you from your head, and the mind is a great tool, but not all the time, because in our culture it tends to be
noisy,
a little bit, a little bit overwrought, and bring you down into your heart center, where you can then have this intuitive wisdom speak to you more. You'll have more of a loud dialogue with it, so you can even hear it. And so those are the two main things. And then there is one other thing. Some breath practices, you could call, one is called holotropic breath work. Another one, there's certain breath practices that are fast, but it's actually called breath work. And you breathe fast for a long time. And you need to do this with someone that guides you. Mm-hmm. Those things can push you into an energetic experience. It can push you into having to be able to see into your subconscious, which is the subconscious is so important in this dialogue. But we won't have time for that today. But the reason I say some of those holotropic breath work and things that are these faster, it's really work, like for 2 hours you breathe really hard, is because it pushes you into having an energetic experience right off the bat. And I just find that when people can experience that, they really go, oh, there's something there. And you might not experience something like that for a long time, but it gives you that point of reference. Oh, there's something real to be had here. Just
experiencing your own energy, like, oh, like, you know. And what's great about these, you know, the advice that you're giving, meditation is free, guys. Like, I mean, you can go to really amazing places and be guided, but you can also watch a YouTube video to get started. You can download an app. Like, breathing is free. Like, this is something that you can try to experience, and it doesn't cost anything. And I think that it's a good start to kind of paying attention to what's going on with you and your environment, and you know where you go with that. It's up to you. It's totally up to you.
And the thing with this thing is that with the journey, not the thing, the journey is that expanding your state of awareness does put you into the realm of having what we call mystical experiences. And that dialogue, which is a dialogue with spirit. Mm-hmm. And having that communion with the larger self is amazingly healing on so many levels. But in the end, we also have to, it expands our range, it expands our repertoire. Yeah. And don't worry, you still need to be grounded. Yeah. That's what I was going to say. A lot of people are scared, well, do I want to be in a state of float away? Yeah. It's like, the thing is, you have this range, it just expands your range. It doesn't take away from your feet being on the ground. Yeah. And that's the better path. Some people do go off like a balloon and they get in trouble. You know? But you always, when you start to experience these things, you always want to have that reflection and check in with yourself. How is this going to translate into how I relate to the world and to either my friends or
it's a great
the world
question.
At large? Is it has to translate into the world. Yeah. That makes it grounded, and that makes it otherwise it becomes distorted.
Otherwise it's ego. I mean, you're feeding. Yeah, I mean, it could be translated into you. So I think that's a great place to end this conversation. But yeah, how does it translate into the world after you have this experience? And that is going to be a learning opening.
Talk about ego.
Talk about ego.
Wait, talk about ego.
Oh, we're going to do that. Trust me, girl. I got this. All right. So I'm definitely going to be sharing the link where you can get the book, and there's one coming after this, and we'll make sure that we know when that one comes out. So thank you for all of this. Thank you for this whole conversation. I read this in one night. This whole thing, I read it in one night. It's very easy. It's fun. She's very playful in her interactions with people, and I found
life is funny.
Yeah, I found it pretty delightful. So we will share a link to get this. There's a couple more things that we get to do together before we end the show today. So one of them, of course, is I've asked each guest to give a heart swell. A heart swell is just an opportunity to give a shout out to someone and say, hey, you mean something to me. I like doing them and encouraging people to do them and just showing it's not so hard, and we need this. More than ever, we need to hear these words from each other. So do you have somebody in mind? Or
well, I have a few, some people in mind and messages.
Okay.
No man is an island. Our world in this culture, it's all about independence. I would not not be anywhere close to where I am,
Girl.
if it wasn't for my teachers, my family. And I'm telling you, my teachers, they gave me my spiritual birth, and that has meant everything to me, my heart. Who doesn't want more love in their life? And when you can find those mentors and that kind of support in life, that's what this is about. So I always thank in my heart, John Buxbazen, who's amazing. Thad, the body worker. I can't say his real name. And
I'm going to get it after the show. I am totally getting it. Whether I get to share it or not, I'm going to get it.
Yeah, just my teachers and my mentors in general. But Buxbazen and Thad have been my main ones. I'm actually even grateful. I've had a few teachers that taught me the dark side of the path, and I'm very grateful for that too.
Yeah.
But what I wish most of all, and why I wrote this book, is that I saw a doorway into evolving as a society and as an individual. And it excites me so much to see our potential as human beings. And I wish everybody could experience a few moments of the bliss that you are. It's your own energy, it's your deeper heart. It's so healing. It will give you a new point of reference for who you are and what this world is about. And I think this is what we're here for. We have so much potential to have such an amazing experience here.
I could not agree with you more. Thank you for that. The most important thing I think you said, and I 100% agree, is that like this idea that any one of us is an island, and that I can't stand it when someone says self-made. It's such a lie. Like interdependence is where it's at, people. Like everything of who we are has been inspired by other people and experiences, and we need all of that. And to like deny or cut ourselves off from that, and to pretend that it doesn't exist and talk about independence and promote it, like that's just nuts. It's totally nuts. Totally interdependence is where it's at. You are in an interdependence, probably 100 of them right now that you don't even think about. I mean, I live in a building that has an elevator. I'm in an interdependence relationship with the operator of that elevator.
Right.
The person that keeps the electric on. It's just
it's in interdependence, a healthy interdependence.
Yes. Just acknowledge that and just appreciate it. Oh my goodness. Well, so we could talk all day long, I'm pretty sure, but we're already over in time. So appreciated this interview.
I loved being here with you.
I loved it. I
love your pants.
Thank you. I think I have money in these pants. I'm like, while you were talking, there's something in here. We'll find out afterwards. I'll take a picture. I'm like, what is it? Feels like money. I haven't worn these in a while. And then the other thing that I just want to leave everybody with is, so we always issue a social challenge of the week, and I'm feeling strongly about breath work. So I'll talk with Suraya after the show. We'll find maybe some links to kind of share that, let everybody just have a little exposure to breath work and have that be your exploration this week. I feel like that's the social challenge of the week, is just to experiment with breath work. And that for sure brings us to the end of the show, because we are over time, but I felt like it was important. I really appreciate you being here. We're going to share a bunch of links. Next week is, who is next week? Next week is Mary from Worthy of Love. And you'll love this. It's an organization in Skid Row that does a birthday party for all the kids in Skid Row once a month.
That's so nice.
And she has a love story. In her story, she met her husband doing this work. I'm like, yeah.
That's perfect.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. So that does bring us to the end of the show. You know what I'm going to say, because I've already said it 3 times during the show. Just relate with more curiosity, guys. I can't say that enough. I know it sounds so simple, but it's so important. Just be more curious with yourself and more curious with other people. And the path to that is just asking questions. Ask a question. Ask a why question. So see you next week. Bye-bye.